Where did it first come from, and how did it evolve into the film that we saw tonight?
So I wish I could take credit for all of it, but I do have a co-writer, Will Tracy, who's not here tonight. Yeah. A writer never gets a woo like that, so that's cool. He was on his honeymoon in Norway, and he's actually more of the foodie of the two of us, and he took a boat to a restaurant that was on an island, and he was with his wife, and he's kind of a claustrophobe a bit, and he looked at his wife and said, what if this went wrong? We are entrusting our night to these people. And he said to his wife, that might be a good idea for a movie. And then he came back to New York and talked to me about it, and Will also, I want to give one restaurant a big shout out. The chef is not like the chef here, but when Will and I worked together at the Onion in Chicago, we went to a restaurant called El Ideas. And the chef there, his name is Philip Foss, and it was a similar setup, small seating. He came out before every course and introduced it. But the thing that was cool about it was he reached out to Will because he wanted to sit in on a meeting at the Onion to see how the Onion was put together, to see how all of us put it together every single day. And I think that's also where the idea, especially for me, who wasn't a foodie, where it clicked as like chef as artist. Yeah.
Mark, can you tell us about your response when you first read the script? What was it that kind of drew you in, and how did you kind of start to think about it in terms of stylistically? It's such a kind of there's such a chilly precision to the film, which I really love. I wonder if you could talk about that.
Yeah, my first reaction was, wow, that's terrifying. And how can I not fuck this up? There was a triangle, really, of comedy and thriller and satire in this kind of beautiful kind of equilateral triangle, and that just seemed like a really interesting tonal challenge. In terms of the grammar and the shots, that was an easy choice, actually. It's a little bit reductive, but it's basically what would Chef Slowick do if he was directing the film. So it's, yeah, if I asked myself that question, that gave us the rhythm, the composition, it gave us everything that we needed.
And can I ask about the cast as well? They're so amazing, everyone's so great in the film. What was it like working with this extraordinary bunch of people?
Oh, that was hellish, wasn't it?
Oh, they were monsters, and also Mark is a monster, and everyone's a monster.
It was such a cliche, isn't it? It's such a boring answer. They were a joy, but they really were. It was shooting in the kind of immediate post-COVID time, and down in Savannah, Georgia, and we were basically stuck in a warehouse for 37 days together. And I kind of rip off Robert Altman in that I mic all the actors all the time. They're on set all the time, every day, even if they don't have dialogue. Kind of backstage, kitchen staff and front and diners, and everybody's there. So it creates this kind of little creative cauldron. We have 2 sound mixers so that anything goes, really. And a lot of, so, despite the brilliance of the script, there was also some great improv and moments that came out of that. So there was everybody worked together, and it was a joy, it really was.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a group of, I remember Will and I, because Mark was so lovely and let us be there the entire time, which I know is rare, and I'll probably never get that privilege again. But
yeah, I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah. But the actors were so smart, and they got it. When Will and I showed up, they had it immediately, and they just consistently elevated it every take, every day. And that was, Will and I, we would leave and be like, there's nobody better for these roles every day. It was really a joy.
Seth, I also wanted to ask if there's anything that kind of Mark brought to the table in terms of the
No.
approach.
No.
In terms of his approach of the.
Yeah, everything. We did not know it would look like. It was crazy when Will and I first saw the cut. We were like, "It's a movie," and it looks beautiful. But most important, when we brought the script to Mark didn't see the script as some sort of like puzzle that he needed to put together. He knew the tone of it, and so once you know the director knows the tone, and it's a tricky tone to balance it. I mean, it was cool to be in here with you guys and watch you be moved by something and then immediately laugh at something, and that's Mark and through and through. And I mean, he brought all of that to the table. I don't think Will and I mean, we were shocked.
Because I was going to say, was it something? Did he bring stuff that kind of almost shifted something that felt like it kind of changed or enhanced or developed something the way that you didn't quite anticipate?
You know what I think Mark really, I think Anya, her performance, I think is excellent. And I think she holds this movie down, and the way Mark shot her and how he made sure to focus on her in certain times in the movie, I think is always brilliant. I mean, like, there'll be certain things that I'll see that maybe you guys won't see, but even when Catherine is talking about narrative and we cut to Margot and we see her face and we know she's thinking, I mean, it's a tough part to play, and it's enhanced by the way Mark shot her. Yeah.
Yeah, there was because we had the benefit of shooting the film almost chronologically, we could build the arc of all the characters, and we wanted to expand so that everybody went on a journey. And working with the cast, I gave them homework. They all had to go and watch The Exterminating Angel, which is a really good movie if you haven't seen it. But what that brought to the rest of the diners was a sense of culpability for their part in that kind of microcosm of society that the restaurant represents. And that gave more of an emotional arc to me, because one of the sub-themes of the film for me was about belonging, that tribal anthropological need to belong to the tribe, to be senior in the tribe, that sense of we're in a private club, or in the sense of the kitchen staff playing into that cult of actually their need to belong to that family. There was, and that gave that frailty, that human frailty and vulnerability of the characters, both backstage and front stage, just gave us an underlying emotional thread, so we didn't get hopefully too cold with the satire.
And just to add, at the end, when he says "I love you all," and you see Amy Carrero saying "I love you too, chef," and you see Arturo, who plays Soren, say "I love you, chef." That wasn't in the script. That's an addition for Mark, but that leads us to believe, or just the arc of these people, they've accepted it and they've bought into it. So, and that's definitely Mark.
Lastly, I just wanted to ask you guys what it was like being a surprise film. It must add a different level of kind of uncertainty to the experience you sat in and
I wanted to
watched.
see Fabelmans. I saw his jet land in London. I wanted to be.
Honestly, it's really terrifying coming in. Nobody's seen it apart from in America, and so I was really scared about what a British audience would make of it. And honestly, just hearing the reaction from you, it was so generous. Thank you ever so much. It was a joy.
Amazing.
Thank you.